It's 2:30 a.m. on a cold October night in 1962. A lone radar operator stares at a blip on his screen, his breath fogging the air as the blip multiplies. Jets scramble, bombers roar to life. Then, the unthinkable, nuclear missiles streak across the sky, signaling the beginning of humanity's darkest chapter. What if the Cold War had turned hot? What if the world's two superpowers, armed to the teeth with the deadliest weapons in history, descended into total war? Today, we explore this terrifying alternate reality and the catastrophic consequences of a Cold War gone wrong. The Flashpoint, October 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis. In our timeline, cooler heads prevailed. But in this alternate history, a Soviet submarine misinterprets depth charges as an attack and retaliates with a nuclear torpedo. Within hours, Washington, D.C. is hit. The White House, a smoldering ruin. In retaliation, U.S. missiles obliterate Moscow, turning the Kremlin into ash. Across Europe, NATO and Warsaw Pact forces clash. Tanks grind through city streets, and skies darken with the smoke of burning cities. This wasn't just war, it was annihilation. The war doesn't stop at the borders of Europe or the Americas. In Asia, the Cold War's simmering tensions explode into chaos. Soviet forces surge into China, forcing Beijing into an uneasy alliance with the West. The Korean peninsula reignites in a firestorm of artillery and aerial bombardments. Cities like Seoul and Pyongyang are reduced to craters, their inhabitants fleeing in desperate waves. In the Middle East, a different war unfolds. The oil fields of the Persian Gulf become prime targets, sending towering plumes of flame into the sky and destabilizing the region for decades to come. Nations like Iran, Iraq, and Israel are caught in a deadly crossfire as they're drawn into the vortex of the superpowers conflict. Back in the United States, the effects of war are immediate and overwhelming. Air raid drills, once just a precaution, now save lives. Cities like New York and Chicago prepare for the unthinkable with mass evacuations. Schools convert into emergency shelters. Grocery stores are ransacked for supplies. Meanwhile, propaganda floods every medium. Television screens broadcast black and white warnings, urging families to duck and cover or retreat to fallout shelters. But what protection can those thin walls offer against the radioactive inferno outside? In the Soviet Union, life is no better. Factories once devoted to tractors now churn out tanks at breakneck speed. Citizens endure rationing harsher than during World War II, queuing in freezing temperatures for bread that may not arrive. When the bombs stop falling, the true horror begins. Imagine this: the once vivid blue sky is now a permanent shade of gray. Sunlight struggles to pierce the thick veil of ash and soot lingering in the atmosphere. Temperatures plummet across the globe in what scientists call nuclear winter. Crops fail on every continent. Rivers freeze in places they never have before. Entire species of plants and animals vanish overnight. Famine grips survivors, and diseases spread unchecked. For those who thought they'd escaped the firestorms, survival becomes a relentless battle against the cold and hunger. Even in the face of such overwhelming destruction, humans are resilient. Small communities band together to share resources and protect one another. Underground bunkers, designed to withstand the apocalypse, now become the cradles of a fragile new civilization. But what would society look like? Without access to power grids, fuel, or functioning governments, humanity may regress to a pre-industrial existence. Libraries become priceless treasures, their knowledge guarded like gold. But without infrastructure or skilled professionals, much of the modern world's knowledge could be lost forever. So, what stopped this nightmare from becoming reality? The Cold War was a delicate balancing act of diplomacy, espionage, and sheer luck. Missteps, like the Cuban Missile Crisis, came frighteningly close to tipping the scales toward destruction. Historians argue that mutual assured destruction, the very idea that neither side could survive a nuclear war, kept the peace. It was a brutal and precarious strategy, but one that ultimately worked. Thankfully, this horrifying reality never came to pass. Cooler heads, diplomacy, and a healthy dose of luck kept the Cold War cold. But as we reflect on this alternate history, one thing is clear: peace, no matter how fragile, is worth fighting for. Because the cost of war is unimaginable. What do you think would have happened if the Cold War turned hot? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into alternate history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the past that could have changed our future.